Hello everyone, today we have new video review, and as you can see, this time we are going to talk about fresh release from Miniart. This is an M3 mid-production kit in 1/35 scale, and you can notice that this is interior kit, so it means you'll get also some internal features included, and basically this model is detailed inside out, and that might be handy not only for, I would say, spending some time on painting and weathering this stuff, but also for using it for some diorama ideas, maybe for replicating some museum tanks. Who knows what you decide to do in order to display this interior, but it is standard feature here and you won't have to get anything separately. And we have a commercial sample here, so it means you will get exactly the same stuff as what you'll see in this video review. So we are going to open it together and see what is actually supplied in this nice box. As for the box, you can see that we have nice box art. Here is comparison with my hand. Box size is standard for this brand, and on this side you will find some information about the manufacturer, also some safety advices and QR code, barcode. I guess they will lead you to the kit info page, maybe this one, or maybe just to manufacturer website. And here on the opposite side you can see how many marking options. 5 marking options. I was just confused, so one option twice. But as you can see, we have different camouflages. This is really interesting because basically we get, I would say, the most popular paint schemes for this tank, and as you can see, they are quite colorful. I would say relatively colorful in comparison with other M3 So we are going to open it right now. It's a top opening box, and here is what we have inside. As you can see, packaging is really tight, and these sprues come almost on the same level with the top lid, so if you have a chance to open it, you can take it out. It's a sealed plastic bag, so you will be able to see still whether parts are intact there or something is flying inside. But as you can see, everything arrived to me in a nice condition, even though it went through the rough shipping process. And now I'm going to open this sealed plastic bag, so I'm going to need a second in order to cut through this plastic bag, and we will check everything together. In the meantime, let me remind you that you can support us financially, and we have a special donate button on our website, and all this money are used in order to improve our equipment or maybe to get some new kits. Now at the moment I'm trying to fix my current problem because, as you remember, my PC broke already 2 weeks ago, so I'm sitting here without any PC working, and the only thing I'm using is my mobile phone and camera. So if you want to help us, you know what to do, and even small donations are really important, so do not be hesitant that some small donation won't be noticed. Okay, so here we are going to start with a small envelope. Here it is. It features Miniart logo, and usually they use it for PE fret. So I'm going to open it right now and we will check everything together. So here it is. Let's zoom in a bit. And now you can see that here, just give me a sec to remove the dust because I hate all these white speckles. So here we have the unpainted P fret, and it is dedicated not only to the external parts but also for internal features. So be sure to use tweezers because here you can see comparison with my fingertip. These are really tiny and thin parts, so it might be tricky to apply them just with bare fingers. Okay, now we can zoom out. And here you can see this sealed plastic bag with Decals sheet and also clear frame. Again, I will use scissors in order to open it because it's a sealed plastic bag. Straight away I can say that there are no masks or masking template for clear parts. That's a traditional feature of Miniart kits, and I really hope that they will fix it because it's quite important thing in such kit, and when you are building a really complex model with interior parts, you don't want to spend time trying to cut all these tiny thingies in order to cover periscopes, and it would be handy to have such thing which will speed up the whole painting process or maybe painting preparation process. So as you can see, molding quality for these clear parts is really nice. Here I don't have anything to complain, so if we had any masks included, maybe even template, it would be cool, because I would call it just a complete combo. Next we continue with Decals sheet. This one comes from Decograph. As you can see, we have all necessary symbols. Maybe some others can try to replicate these stars with help of masks in order to get even more convincing finish, but even this decals should look nice. It's just a matter of careful application on the model and you will be good to go, and the final result should look good. Okay, now we zoom out a bit, because we are going to start with gray plastic sprues. And here we have the first one. As you can see, it is really wide, so I suggest we zoom in and start checking it closer. So here we have a lot of parts for the turret, and all these parts will go inside the turret. As you remember, we are dealing with interior version, so that's why we have here, for example, one-piece seat. Next we continue with this special, let's say, bucket for the turret. As you can see, it is detailed both inside and outside, so it would be a wise idea to have some weathering on this floor panel in order to get a bit more realistic appearance. Okay. Next we continue with a bigger plastic frame, so this one is dedicated to various internal elements as well, but here we have more parts for the drivetrain, so I think we can zoom in to the corner straight away without further ado, and here you can see some parts for the engine bay. Again, molding quality seems to be fine, but I would recommend to be careful with thin parts, and also be careful while removing these extra plastic tabs as the ones you might see on some plastic parts. It's better to use a plastic saw, because it will give you a bit more precise cut, and then you can, let's say, clean it further with a sharp knife. But do not cut off these parts with a sharp knife, or maybe with plastic cutters, because this plastic is more on the soft side. So if you use classic cutters, just like, give me a sec, just like these ones, you will break the part, it will cut into the part surface, and then it will be really difficult to solve. So that's why I'm using this tool. As you can see, it's slightly broken, but you can get the idea. It's usually used for resin parts mostly, but for such plastic parts it's better to be safe and use this tool as well. Okay, next we continue with what we have here. Another plastic frame. So this one is dedicated to engine parts, and you can see that one frame is completely dedicated to engine parts. Here we have some other elements. So let's zoom in. As you remember, M3 had the radial engine, so it's fully copied in this kit, and here you can check these parts. Everything looks cool, and it would be a wise idea to open the engine bay in order to expose this power plant, because it would be a shame to hide it inside. Here we continue with the fire extinguisher and some other elements, and of course here we have some parts for wiring and piping on the engine. But again, as I said before, this engine looks really impressive, so it's cool to get such upgrade out of the box. You don't have to resort to any resin upgrades, and that's what I appreciate about the interior kits from Miniart, that you get all this stuff as a standard feature, not as something you have to spend your extra money on. And next we continue with some hull parts. So whole hull should be glued out of separate panels, and here you can see some of them. These ones are actually side panels for the superstructure. This one is a rear armor panel. As you can see, we have separate doors here, and even this small hatch is molded separately and can be opened on your model, which is really cool. And if you flip it over, here inside you can see we also have special rise tabs, which will help you with alignment, because it might be a bit tricky to combine separate panels. We can, let's say, admit it. There is no point in hiding it. So that's why Miniart decided to give you such useful things such as these tabs. Next we continue with another set of parts for internal features. As you can see, we have here the bullet drums and also various minor ammo rounds for not the main gun, obviously. And here you can see these parts from the opposite side. Of course, you will have to delete these plastic stubs, but they are not intruding in any way of the main assembly, so maybe some others will be fine just by leaving it on the part. Next we continue with some storage boxes. So here they are. Again, they are assembled out of separate parts. We have some Pioneer tools as well, and if you flip it over here on the opposite side, you can see that again we have some design, let's say, cues which will help you with the proper alignment, and that's really cool because it will give you a bit easier assembly process. You won't have to worry about any minor issues, and again, that's something what I appreciate about Miniart kits. Here we continue with more hull parts. Again, nice rivets, and this ones might be actually a good thing for some weathering ideas, maybe for some scratches or paint shading. And here we have a lot of wires pre-molded on the part, so they're not separate, as you can see, and maybe I'll bring them closer so that you can see what I'm talking about. Yes, now you should be able to see. So just use the sharp brush and you'll be fine, I think, and still it's better than just plain the model, I mean plain panel, as just like some brands like to do. Next we continue with the track parts. So these are side teeth for tracks. As you remember, we have separate track links, so these ones will be actually connecting together the track links between each other, but we will see it further in the video review when we will be checking the assembly manual. Next we have this small turret which will be installed on the main turret. As you can see, this main circle is casted as a, or molded as a one-piece part, which is really cool because you won't have any seams in this area. And we also have casting surface here, just like on the real tank. Here you can see it closer. And of course all hatches are molded separately. Here you can check them. Machine gun is also here, and if I flip it over, these parts are also detailed inside. They're not plain inside, just like any other part in this kit. So do not be worried about any issues in this area. You're covered, let's say, from both sides. Next we continue with more parts for the main hull. So these ones are side armor panels. Again, we have separate doors and separate hatches on the doors, and obviously if you open such large door, there will be a lot of things visible inside, so it might be a handy thing to consider for interior version. And here you can check these parts from the opposite side. Okay. Next we have bigger plastic frame. So here it is. First let's zoom out, take the look at the whole frame. So here it is. We have mix of hull parts, also some interior parts as well, and various separate hatches, and again a lot of tiny bits which will be installed on the tank. We have some custom marks pre-molded, but I suggest that we zoom in as much as we can and we check everything one by one. So here we start with the hull panels. As you can see, again we have separate sections of this angular superstructure which will be installed on the tank. Here we have one-piece main barrel for the gun in the tank hull, and also for the turret gun, which is really cool because you just have to cut through these 3 points of the attachment to the sprue and you will be fine to go with a one-piece barrel. The same applies to these machine guns, as you can see here, but obviously some modders will choose to resort to metal parts, and that's fine because obviously metal parts will bring even more features. Here we have the glacis plate. Again, note the casting texture on it. As you can see, we even have some nuts pre-molded on it as well. Next we continue with some parts for the hull. Again, some guiding elements are present here. You can notice them in form of these tabs. They will help with alignment of the hull panels. Next, here we continue with separate hatches, and of course this top, actually this is the front panel of the hull, but what is interesting is the casting marks which are present here and here. So manufacturer decided to copy them fully. And of course I can show some of the hull panels from inside. As you can see, they're also detailed. So again, they're not just a plain surface inside, and that's something you should keep in mind. I mean, you are working with interior kit, so that's why it's better to think through how you want to paint all this stuff, how you want to expose it on your model, etc, etc. Next we continue with some parts for seats in this tank. As you can see, they're provided on 2 identical frames. Nothing special, that's why we can move on. And while we're moving on, we also have, I think these were the air filters, correct me if I'm wrong, but as you can see, they're provided on 2 identical plastic frames, and everything looks cool. Camera does not want to focus, so just give me a second. Yeah, now it should be focused. They should be glued out of 2 hulls. There are guiding elements inside, so it won't be difficult to glue them together, and you will get the right alignment out of the box. Next, we continue with 2 identical plastic frames which are dedicated to suspension parts or drivetrain parts. So I will zoom in a bit so that you can see this sprue. Here we have, as you can see, the tensioner. We also have some parts for the lower hull section. We have the few caps. We have also the towing rings. And again, everything looks fine. I can see this ends of the towing cable. They're molded separately, so I guess it hints that you will have to use your own metal wire in order to replicate the towing cable, so be ready for that. And what is next? Just give me a sec. So next we continue with another rear armor panel, so definitely you will be using only one, and that's why you have to keep track of which part should be used and which one will stay in your spare parts box. Next is the special sprue for drive sprockets. So here it is. You can see it should be glued out of 2 hulls, but again we have some guiding elements, so it will be easy and quick. And attachment points are placed on the teeth, but here it's rather tricky because, as you can see, teeth shape is it will require some precise separation, I would say. So that's why you have to use the plastic saw again, and here as well. Next we have a lot of sprues for drivetrain bogies. There are 6 of them actually in total, so I will show you on one because they carry the same set of parts, obviously. And this might be a bit of a repeating task because there are several drivetrain bogies on both sides, obviously, and as you can see, it should be glued out of several parts. We have custom marks on it. We also have the guiding elements inside, so I don't think it will be a difficult task, but it will be a time-consuming thing. Maybe it would be a cool idea to make everything all together in order to speed up the process. Next, we have some road wheels. These ones are supplied on the separate sprue, and there are actually 2 types. So I guess one will be installed on this tank, one will be left for your spare parts, but here's the sprue I'm talking about. As you can see, we have some features on the tire walls, which is really cool because you don't get such molding quality in all armor kits even today. But I wonder why we have 2 types of road wheels. Just give me a second, I will show you another one which is supplied on 4, maybe a bit more. No, 4 plastic sprues. So here it is. There are 3 wheels on each frame. As you can see, these ones should be glued out of 2 hulls. Why? Because I flip it over here, you can see that this central rim, let's say, it will be inserted here. Maybe it was done in order to make the paint finishing a bit easier, because you can paint this rim separately and you won't have to spend your time trying to get the masks for this round circular parts. But still, it is interesting that we have 2 types of tires, so it will be necessary to check the assembly manual. Next, we continue with various equipment for the hull. Here we have machine gun and also rifle, automatic rifle, and some handles. It is provided in 2 pieces, so another piece is already in my hands. And what is next? Next, we continue with sprue, which is dedicated to various engine parts as far as you can guess. So here you can guess that these parts will go onto the engine cylinders. They will be installed on the top. So again, be careful while handling them. As you can see, their part is not that huge. And once again, I remind that they're provided on 2 similar frames. Next, we have a turret. So this one is molded as a single piece part. We have nice custom surface and custom marks. Of course, all hatches are molded separately, and overall it looks nice. Here inside we have also some rivets in the turret. So it's just a matter of careful assembly and you'll be good to go with a really beautiful part. Next, we continue with the Sprue, which is fully dedicated to Pioneer tools. Here we have various axes and shovels and pickaxes as well. Okay. What is next? Next we have crack parts. These ones are given on 12 identical plastic frames. So I will show you only one because they seem to be absolutely similar. Well, they are not, because there are two types of the sprues. So if I bring it here in the frame like this, you won't tell the difference because they are identical, right? But if I flip it over just like that, here you can see that we have a special guidance tab inside, which will help you with aligning these two halves together. And of course, do not forget about separate teeth, which were supplied in a bag, which we seen few minutes before. Okay, and the last plastic sprue is dedicated to bigger hull parts. So here we have really large panels for the lower hull section and also for the top section. Let's zoom out, here you can see them. Again, everything looks really cool. I do not see any possible issue here. And maybe it will be a bit tricky in areas such as here, for example, because as you can see we have a really thin area to get your scissors or maybe to get your knife inside in order to separate this part. Note that we also have some pre-molded features here as well, and of course inside there are some details supplied too, so you won't be left on such big parts as well. And next we continue with assembly manual. So this one is supplied in form of large color printed brochure. So here we have a really nice Miniart assembly manual, which is more or less easy to understand. So here, for example, you can see two marking options, actually three marking options. Why we have 1 and 3? So where is 2? I wonder. It's interesting. So here is 2. Logical, huh? Next we continue with the parts map. So note that parts map does not show any unused parts, so be careful and use the right elements, because otherwise you might end up with a wrong assembly. And everything starts with the drivetrain from what I can see. As you remember, we had a radial engine here, so we will have to feed it somewhere inside. As you can see, various control elements are getting installed into the fighting section, fighting compartment. Next we continue with armor rounds. And we start working on the lower hull sidewalls. There are a lot of things to get installed there as well. Then we get everything together. As you can see, the lower hull sub-assembly is almost finished. And then we start working on the engine. So it's right on the step number 21. And as you can see, there are several pages actually dedicated only to the engine assembly. So be careful with that. And as I said before, it is a nice idea to bring it out on your model, to display it somehow on your model, not to hide it inside the tank, because it would be a shame to assemble such nice power plant and then just close it inside your model. Next we continue with various pipes, and they will be installed around the engine, in the engine compartment. And that's really impressive that they decided to replicate almost all necessary or visible elements, because if you plan to open these doors, as you can see, you can open them, so they will be visible. And that's why I really appreciate that all this stuff is supplied in a standard package. Next we continue with the main gun. So as you can see, it will be installed on the lower hull section as well. Note that all seats are already in the position, so we continue working with the main gun turret, if we can call it so. And here we install some side panels for the superstructure, and again we have separate hatches here as well, so be careful and plan what you would like to open, I would say, so that you won't be caught in the middle that some panel is already closed and you can't open it. Next we continue with various tools and guns which will be installed in the hull, just like on the real tank. Note that some handles are replicated with P parts, so be careful with this stuff. It is really tiny, it has to be bent, and you will have to do it with your own tools and hands. Next, towing cable. As I said, you have to use metal wire. As you can see, 145 millimeters to be used, so get some supplies ready, because then it will be necessary to use it. Here we install some Pioneer tools and note that they are clamped or fixed in place with PE parts, so you get really nice details out of the box. You don't have to resort to some aftermarket sets which actually upgrade this thing. Next we close the lower hull section with the top panel. But note that turret is still not finished. We continue with headlamps. We have two options of the main gun, which will depend on the marking option you choose for your build. And what is next? Of course, we can open these side hatches, as you remember, because they were molded separately. We continue with various Pioneer tools, stowage boxes, which will be placed on the tank. We start assembly of the drivetrain, so the rolled wheels choice will depend on the marking option you choose. As you can see, there are two versions, as you remember, so again, pay attention to that. Next, we start assembling tracks. So each track link will contain 79 tracks in total. And then we continue with guns for the turret. So we start assembling the turret, as you can see on the step number 94. And we continue with the turret. A lot of stuff going inside, by the way. So again, we can open this hatch, and I would rather suggest to do so because it will be at least something will be visible inside this hatch. And step 115 is installation of this turret in the tank. We have also a colors chart here. We have another fifth marking option from May 1943. Here we have fourth marking option, again logical. So this one comes from spring 1943, and of course some other kits in the same scale. We reviewed them as well. You can find the videos on our YouTube channel. These are also interesting kits which might be handy with this one, maybe figures. And of course on the last page we have some other versions of M3 Lee kit. Maybe you would like to have another version without interior, so these ones you should check, and we also have their review on our YouTube channel. As for today's kit, it should be already available. You can find it in Modelimax webshop. Of course, I will be happy to hear your opinion about this kit. Write it here in the comment section below. If you like this video, press the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel because it will help us greatly. And I will see you in the next video review as usual. Thank you for joining me today and spending some time checking this kit. I will see you in the next video review as usual. Bye.